Welcome to Cinemophile, where we bring you the best in independent, documentary, and foreign films, and we talk to the people who made them. I'm your host, Mike Caspar, and you can find out more about the program by going to cinemophilepod.com. After the sudden death of her son, a mother seeks the help of her doctor to understand why he took his own life, and comes to find out that many other teenagers who have been taking a particular kind of medication for acne have also killed themselves. This sets in motion the story of the goose that laid the golden egg. We get into the field of research, the law, political and financial power, and so much more. Again, the film The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg. Joining us today is the director, writer, and producer, Doug Bremner. Doug, welcome to Cinemophile. Doug Bremner, what inspired you to make The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg?
So I'm a medical doctor, and I have a long history of doing research, and so it's inspired by true events. It's related to litigation about drug safety, and so I thought that story of is a natural conflict story, and would be of interest to a wide audience.
That's really a lot of the focus of the film. It starts out with a teenager who was taking a particular drug for acne and ends up killing himself. And that from that, the mother takes up the baton and brings the story to the attention of this particular researcher, Dr. Jack Forteo, who takes up the baton from there. Was there a particular case that came to your attention? What was it that spurred you to want to make this story about this particular issue? Many particular issues, actually, in the film.
This particular story, The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg, this is actually the first screenplay that I wrote.
Yeah.
And I've written now about 11 screenplays, but I did want to kind of hold it because, the first film, of course, you're going to have some issues and stuff, just learning how to make films in general.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt this is a stronger story. It's more of a kind of a streamlined story, kind of the hero's journey, as you want if you want to use screenwriting cliches. That's, it's one person taking on the big monster drug company, I guess you could say. So I think it is a good story. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a doctor who also writes screenplays, and this is back when I was just writing nonfiction books for, kind of general health books for the general audience, and telling about my experience, my own experience as an expert witness in drug safety litigation. And he said, that sounds like it'd be a good movie. So that's how I got started.
Yeah. And in the film, this part of medicine, this part that's explored in this, is fraught with all kinds of landmines. Not only, the research that's being done, making sure that the research is adequate and takes into account all the different variables. But then once you get past that, the drug companies get involved, and there's the money that's at stake, and it's all brought to bear in this film. It's a huge enterprise. I mean, bringing a drug to market and then seeing it become a successful market is literally a cash cow if it's a success. And taking on these huge corporate interests in the process, which we see in the film. You can't understate that, I don't think. I mean, the stakes are huge here.
Yeah, I mean, these companies are making $1 billion a year off a drug. And so, whatever time they can extend that track record, that, after they've done all the research and development, then it's just like a cash cow. And in fact, that's where the title of the film came from. It was actually some marketing material that was used in a demonstration for the drug representatives, and they were saying this drug is our goose that keeps laying golden eggs for us, but we have to protect the goose.
This is one of those things that I've become aware of over the years, kind of paying attention to what happens with drugs. It used to be, I don't know if it still is the case, that you could make minor alterations to the formula of a particular drug and hold on to the patents for a lot longer because of incidental kind of changes in the drug. Is Am I off track on that?
No, that's totally correct. So you can do something like, if you take the antidepressant Paxil, for instance, which is paroxetine, they made a continuous release version so that you only had to take it once a day instead of twice a day, and they called that Paxil CR. And so then they had a new drug that had a new, because they only have like a 20-year lifespan, and then the patent runs out, and then all the generic makers come in and start reproducing what you did, and they have a totally different business model. It's sort of like, they're making toothpicks instead of, Rolls Royces or something, I guess you could say.
So yeah, so that is a part of the story. I mean, not that they bring it up particularly in the film, but this is something that is continues to kind of go to the title of the film, "The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg." It's yeah, so there's a lot at stake, I guess, what we're trying to get to. Now, in terms of sort of the filmmaking part of this, having made a film before, having been in this realm before, was there a particular challenge in making this film because it's so character driven? It's so much about this particular doctor and how things kind of fan out from that. What was the most challenging part of making the film?
Well, I mean, it's always a challenge to get the resources together, to put a film like this together. My first film was more low budget, and I wanted to, up the production quality this time around. And so that was a challenge, and I had difficulty sort of pulling together the production team, and it just sort of like came together like at the last minute. It's sort of like once you get one person. I mean, if you ever worked on films before, it's sort of like all of a sudden your house is filled with people, right? Because they all, as soon as like something gets canceled, they all out with their phones, and then they're texting each other, what's the next job, right? Especially in Georgia, where, it's the whole freelance economy where, a lot of times you'll have like a studio come in from the outside to make a Marvel movie or something, and then they're coalescing all that team of the local people who are going to actually do the work. So that kind of came together at the last minute, and then we had to get not one but two courthouses, which because there was the trial, but then there was the appeal, and so I was sort of pushed to and then one of the courthouses, we had sort of this challenging situation where some like a local rapper did a music video in one of the courthouses and was saying F the police or something like that, and so then that that courthouse was out, and then I think they had a ripple effect where the next neighboring county courthouse canceled on us after we'd already scheduled, because of quote unquote security reasons, but I think that probably has something to do with it. And so they were pushing me to use a small studio, which was not, it just didn't have the look, right? It was sort of a courtroom, but it just didn't have it. And so and they were saying, well, this Hall County courthouse is an hour away. It's too far away. It's not going to work. And so at the last minute, I just sort of insisted, that we need to have like a real courthouse. And so in Georgia, each county has its own kind of historic courthouse, and they're really beautiful. So we had one in Cartersville, which was the appeals court, and then Hall County, which is where they made Tulsa King. They shot Tulsa King there with Sylvester Stallone. But it's another historic courthouse, and the county officials and everything were really generous and helping us and everything. It's quite a lot to have a whole film crew kind of show up at this,
Yeah.
courthouse, which is like right in the middle of the downtown Gainesville. So that there is that. I think another thing is a lot of times when you see these medical kind of based shows, it's written by screenwriters that don't have a medical background. So they're maybe focusing on things like, the doctor making out with the nurse in the stairwell, stuff like that. And but I wanted to bring in, some real elements of what are the real dramas, that can happen in this what I call medical pharmaceutical academic complex, where you have these different forces. You've got the drug company, you've got the regulatory agencies like the FDA, and then you've got the academic medicine who's doing their research. And so, if you have like some academic person that does a study that's at odds with the drug company, then you have a conflict right there.
Yeah.
But and then you bring in, like the regulatory body and, the IRB and this and that. And so, my job was just, because I know that world inside and out, right? Because that's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I still am a medical researcher. So my job was to convey to the actors, what it means psychologically. So like if if you're an actor and your laptop gets stolen, it might not be a big deal. But if you're a researcher, you've got all your data on there, that's your whole career. Or if you're getting up in front of a courtroom and testifying about research that you did, defense attorneys trying to discredit you in your research, and it feels like that they're putting your whole career on the line, and you could lose your job and your livelihood
Yeah.
and your way of providing for your family. So those are some of the real high stakes that that I tried to convey. And I think the actors in time, like if you look at the guy playing the doctor, he started to think like a doctor after a while. I mean, he's an actor. He doesn't have any health background, but just kind of talking to him, and then reading the nonfiction book and stuff like that. Kind of thinking about it after a while, he acquired that kind of demeanor. But I mean, if you talk to him in real life, he's not like that at all.
Hmm.
You'd probably be really surprised, what he's like.
Andy Evans, who plays Dr. Jack Forteo, is deadly serious in the film, about everything, about his work, about his family life. He's a person who there's a lot of different cross current of things that he's dealing with, and I thought he did a great job. And I do want to just go back for a minute. Talk about the look of the film. I think it's shot beautifully. You got some great, speaking of locations, the house, that he lives in, Jack lives in. There's a lot of really high-end look to the film in that regard. You got the sites and the sets that you have really look like a much higher budget than I assumed that you had to work with. So congratulations on that part of it. So I want to go back to the actors because I thought Andy did a great job. Andy Evans as Dr. Fateo. Also, you need a character like Red Leghorn, which and David DeFries plays him. I thought he did a great job of embodying that kind of bravado of an attorney from Texas.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he kind of became the role. It was like, in fact, if you look at his Facebook page, it's like a picture of Red Leghorn sitting there in the courtroom with his fingers like this. He just sort of like looked at that, took one look at that and said, I know, I got this. Real life, I was working with this attorney that from Texas, and he started out flying a Learjet into Atlanta to meet with me, and then by the end of the trial, he was on Delta Coach. Because that's another thing that people don't realize. These court cases are high stakes. This is multi-lit district litigation, so there's like 100 lawyers, and the strategy for the defense for the drug company is just to drain all the resources, and so
Yeah.
they're just going to try and outlive you and bankrupt you. And in fact, for several of the lawyers, it was sort of like their firm said enough is enough. You need to settle this and move on because it goes on for years, and the price tag is incredible. But they're all geared up for it. They're sort of that's the way things go. That's their life.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point to be made is it often doesn't get decided on the merits of the case. It gets decided on the logistics of the case. And that's not good for us as a consumer. If the drug companies are waiting it out until till and not allowing the science to be seen and to be adjudicated. So that's definitely a life lesson. Well, in terms of now, this is your second film.
Hmm.
Plans for more? Are you looking at other projects? Has this kind of inspired you to continue to do this kind of work?
Well, I really, I really like filmmaking. I like, the most enjoyable part is actually being on the set, and there's
Oh,
so much going on. There's always crises to deal with, but it's exciting, sort of like being in a war zone or something. But I mean, I've written like I said, I've written a total of 11 screenplays. I have another one called Murder Without Death that's been a finalist in some screenwriting competitions like Palm Springs. It's about, again, a story about a doctor that, in this case, he finds out about a toxic metal exposure in a local wire manufacturing plant, and then CEO of the plant frames him and has him put in jail.
Wow. Okay.
So that he wrote a book about it, and the cover of the book is him in his white coat behind bars.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
people get serious when there's money involved, and
Yeah, yeah,
it,
yeah. So that was based on actually there's like a dispute, longest running court case litigation in the history of the United States was a dispute about this process for manufacturing copper wire that company was not
wow. Well, that sounds fascinating. I mean, it really does. I mean, it's that in
Yeah.
and of itself is reason to pick up the screenplay and take a look at it. Well, again, congratulations. This I know Dances with Films is becoming. It feels like the profile of this particular film festival is getting higher and higher all the time. I remember it's been several years. It's actually been a film festival in Los Angeles, but this year I'm seeing more and more about the films, and it seems to be again the profile of it. It seems to be more in front of the public for not giving them an opportunity to see these films. So I'm glad for you. I'm glad for all the filmmakers who are involved with Dances with Films. So congrats.
Yeah, it's a great festival, and they're really good at publicizing things, and they have a bunch of seminars for supporting the filmmakers on marketing. I understand that there's like 20,000 people or so who will attend, and some of the screenings have already been sold out.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, I want to get up there. I haven't gotten up there to be honest with you. I think I went one year. It's been a little while ago too, but again, anything that helps get filmmakers exposure. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
good thing, and especially again, you almost couldn't ask for a more central platform in terms of where these films are being screened
Right.
than at the TCL Chinese Theater. It really is it's a great spot, and congrats and congratulations on the film, The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg, and also for your continued success. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
For
thank you.
we've been
Okay.
speaking with the director and screenwriter of The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg, and that would be Doug Bremner. Thanks.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar, the place where you will hear from the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers. Please check out our previous interviews as well as upcoming interviews and special programming by going to cinemaphilepod.com. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, searchable under Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar. Until next time, thank you for listening.